After a 3-week break, it is finally time for the return of a Formula One Grand Prix in the self-styled Land of Fire. The Baku City Circuit is poised and ready for action. It's round 4 of the Formula One World Championship in 2023. Charles Leclerc versus the Bulls resumes in under 5 minutes' time. This is the 7th Grand Prix Sunday at this venue in Azerbaijan, which this weekend announced a contract extension to the end of 2026. Let's take you through the circuit in greater detail. 6 kilometres, 3.7 miles, 51 laps today, and the race lap record of 1:43.0. As you saw, 20 turns, a huge variation, a compromise on setup with the long drag down to turn number 1 and the tight, intricate corners through the old section of the town. What a pass this was. Ricciardo versus everyone to the inside of turn number 1 in 2017, on his way to victory back in that year, winning from 10th on the grid back then. This is Sainz versus Giovinazzi in 2021, swooping around the outside. Oh, there is room for 2 cars there, who knew? And to the old section, turn 8, Charles Leclerc. They've made this curve slightly more forgiving. Good job too, because turn 8 is the narrowest part of the entire Formula One season. It's the soft, the medium and the hard, that bit you knew, but to check in, it's the C5, the C4 and the C3 tyres for the 20 drivers in the field and the 18 drivers on the grid. Live pictures there of the Caspian Sea. Let's take you through the grid for the 4th Grand Prix of the year, where Esteban Ocon starts from the pit lane. He has finished 8th from last on the grid in Miami 2022. Hulkenberg took the car out of Parc Fermé conditions. That's why he is also in the pit lane. De Vries with nothing to lose in P18. Pierre Gasly in 17th, finally got some laps in the sprint. Magnussen's very happy with the setup of his car. Expect him to go forward. He's next to Zhou Guanyu on the grid. Logan Sargent made it into Q2 for the first time in his Formula One career. He's 14th next to former winner here, Valtteri Bottas, 13th on the grid. Good friends alongside each other. Recipe for disaster at turn 1 with Alex Albon and George Russell, the big shock of Grand Prix qualifying. Oscar Piastri not feeling well, did well to make it into the top 10. He's next to Lance Stroll. Yuki Tsunoda trying to score a strong result. He was in the points here before rear wing failure here 1 year ago. Lando Norris was hoping for 4th, but just missed out. Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton next to each other, and then you get to Carlos Sainz, who's 8/10 adrift of his teammate, and then the big 3 contenders for victory. Perez from 3rd, and at the front of the field, Max Verstappen on the front row here for the first time. Charles Leclerc on pole for the 19th time in his Formula One career. You're looking at Fernando Alonso starting 6th. You're looking at a driver who got the longest ever Formula One career here 1 year ago, and what a vintage season he is having. That is his worst qualifying of the year so far, though. That's a mark of how well it's been going for Fernando Alonso. We're going to welcome you now to the commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes, and delighted to say that I'm joined once again by Jolyon Palmer. We've had so much action already this weekend. Now it's time for the main event, Jolyon.
I know, it's been non-stop drama, hasn't it? Just one free practice session on Friday and straight into Grand Prix qualifying that set the grid for this one. Yesterday was drama in itself with another sprint shootout and then the sprint.
Yeah.
And we line up again on the grid. We've barely caught our breaths and we're ready for the Grand Prix. 51 laps today, and we're expecting a one-stop race. Everyone on the grid is on medium tyres, apart from Nick De Vries right at the back. And there you go, on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see Ocon and Hulkenberg also starting for the pit lane on the hards. But one stop, everyone on the same strategy at the relevant part of the field.
So Red Bull have won the last 7 Grand Prix when Charles Leclerc has started from pole, including here in Baku 2022 when the team finished 1 and 2. And if Charles Leclerc does not win this race, it will be the longest streak without converting a pole since Nelson Piquet in a run that went to 1987. That's one side of the coin. As we start the formation lap, a big opportunity for the man who held off one of the Red Bulls in the sprint yesterday.
I hate it when people start building up a record-breaking losing streak from pole position, or it's the classic Hulkenberg never had a podium, and you build up the negative streaks. But Leclerc's been fantastic this weekend. Ferrari are better. They weren't good enough to win the sprint, but at least Charles was good enough to beat a hobbled Max Verstappen yesterday. The start again is going to be crucial. It's a long race. The degradation for Ferrari was not very good. That's where Red Bull really seemed to eke out, particularly Checo, right at the end to win. But it's a new day. They can learn from yesterday. Charles will be able to drive slightly differently. Can he keep those Red Bulls behind him for 51 laps? Feels a tall order, but it's Baku. Anything can happen. Chance of a safety car is not remote here either. It's all set to be quite a thrilling and entertaining afternoon.
So Charles Leclerc, a master over one lap of this circuit, 3 consecutive pole positions at the Baku City circuit. Not only that, though, it's his 4th start from the front when you include the sprint as well. A reminder of the fastest pit stop is down there. Ferrari have taken a step forward with that. There are plenty around the circuit, cheering the chargers across the field. We are expecting that one-stop strategy. We know that the safety car frequency is high here. We know that red flags are possible as well. We've had late restarts here in the past, but we've never, Jolien, had a repeat winner of this form.
No, I think the man that's going to be the one to continue that stretch is going to be Leclerc from pole, because both Verstappen and Perez have won the last couple of Grand Prix here for Red Bull. Can Leclerc add to that run of different winners? The start is going to be crucial. It's a short run to the first corner. Leclerc held the lead yesterday in the start. It's also so tight through those first 4 corners, really, or even 5 and 6 corners. 90 lefts, then 90 right for turn 4. And we saw with Verstappen and Russell yesterday how it's such a squeeze getting 2 cars side by side through there. So there's definitely a recipe for an incident somewhere.
Great pictures of the old Maiden Tower, as it is known, dating back, some say, all the way back to the 8th century, and the old walls back to the 12th century as the cars line up on that long run. They won't have DRS immediately, but there is going to be a fight in the opening meters. Check you in with the Drivers' Championship. Verstappen on 75. Perez decreasing that lead with his victory in the sprint. His first sprint victory yesterday. If Perez wins today, it is his first repeat win at a Formula One venue in a Grand Prix. That's the driver we're on board with. Charles Leclerc backs the pace up. You're looking at the contenders, if all goes to plan, to win the race.
And don't ignore the Red Bull rivalry amongst each other as well. Yes, they both want to beat the Ferrari at the front and win the race, but as you mentioned, Perez narrowed that championship lead yesterday. It's the 2 Red Bulls surely are on this championship run together, unless there's an incredible rate of development or fate goes against them in the rest of the season. They have the best car still, and they've got to be looking at each other a bit. So will they work together to beat Leclerc? I don't know. I think both Max and Checo are gunning for this victory themselves.
We did have the sprint yesterday, but this is Grand Prix Sunday with 2 cars ready in the pit lane. Ocon will be joined by Hülkenberg. The last car in place then is at the back of the field. The AlphaTauri of Nick de Vries moving into position. Leclerc on the left-hand side. It's Verstappen today on the right alongside on the front row. 2 in the pit lane, 18 on the grid. We await the green flag at the back. And here come the lights for the start of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And Formula One is underway on the streets of Baku. Good reaction time for Verstappen, but it's Charles Leclerc who maintains the lead into turn 1. The top 3 are as they were going through. Sainz in 4th. Hamilton is vulnerable to Fernando Alonso diving to the inside, but Hamilton chops across. Lost momentum for Alonso, means he's vulnerable now, and there's a tap there between a Williams. I think that was Oscar Piastri getting hit as he went through. He was side by side, dropping back, losing positions at the start. He's lost one. It's as you were in the top 5 though.
I think it was Albon nibbling a bit of Piastri further down on the edge of the top 10, as it is at the start. Everyone in single file pretty much going through those first few corners in the top 3. Leclerc ahead of Verstappen, then Perez, Sainz in 4th. Alonso fancied a bit of a look at passing Hamilton into turn 2, but it wasn't doing. So even keel at the front, and I think it was Albon into Piastri, and certainly the Williams picked up some damage. Sargent and Albon were starting fairly close, so we'll keep an eye on that.
So Charles Leclerc, then Max Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Hamilton, Alonso. Up 2 places goes Stroll, down a place goes Lando Norris, up 2 places goes Russell. Last of the point scorers dropping 2 places is Yuki Tsunoda. We have a yellow flag in the very first meters of the circuit. It's in sector 1 that we've got it.
Verstappen is right on the back of Leclerc. Look how close they are for the lead, coming down towards turn 16, and then there's a long run up to the first corner to start lap 2, and it's going to be immediately an overtaking chance for Max.
And Charles Leclerc knows it. He was checking the mirrors late yesterday, wasn't able to offer a defence. This Red Bull is so efficient, it's so fast. We go on board, and the Scarlet Ferrari darting around, trying to break the toe, because he knows the threat is real here. He's trying to keep Verstappen behind, but we're gaining all the time, past 200 miles per hour, and without DRS, Leclerc will hold position, but ominous signs for Ferrari.
As soon as there is DRS, that is going to be a slam dunk, unless Charles can just eke out a bit of a margin. Coming into turn 2, then there's another long run down towards turn 3. Verstappen still waits for some DRS, Perez still there as well, Sainz with his mirrors full of Lewis Hamilton. Everyone did continue as well right down the rest of the field, so there was definitely damage to a front wing of the Williams, but Albon's still running in 12th behind Piastri, and Sargent's still going in 14th.
Losing places off the start, Valtteri Bottas finding himself losing 5 from the start of the race. Verstappen with a really strong middle sector last time around to set up that opportunity in the drag to the line that mainly comprises that final sector. And once again, he is close. Leclerc and Verstappen doing battle once again. But how much is he even going to be able to offer a defence if Verstappen has DRS?
Look how menacing Verstappen looks in the mirrors at the Ferrari, and maybe this is Leclerc thinking about his tyres already, the way that he chewed through them in the sprint yesterday. He knows he cannot afford to rag it right now and destroy the tyres, but we're looking back at the man in second place, and he is so close.
He's looking for an advancement here. You can just see Verstappen able to stay with the Ferrari ahead, and Leclerc would have wanted more of a margin than 0.3 of a second there. The double world champion looking large in the mirrors as we sweep through the corners to conclude the end of the second lap. We'll give you the live speed to the bottom of your picture as we get closer and closer still. Fantastic pictures of the top 2 in the race. DRS will be enabled next, so this is the last time that he's getting closer and closer and closer without the aid of the drag reduction system. And now it's a game changer. Now it is going to be really hard to hold the lead for Leclerc.
Yeah, he needs to produce one of those one-lap specials now to keep Verstappen behind him and out of the DRS range. We know how effective the Red Bull DRS is, and there they pop open on both Verstappen and Perez behind. Long run down to turn 3. Is this the first opportunity?
Will Verstappen go for it immediately? He knows he's got such a long run down to turn 1. He knows the risk that was taken yesterday with that moment of brinkmanship with George Russell just biding his time. Let's replay the race start.
Much better start from Max today in second place. Was able to come across and make sure that Checo couldn't do anything. The top 3 all very even. Carlos Sainz keeping 4th ahead of Hamilton. That slowed Hamilton and allowed Alonso a chance. And in the end, Alonso backed out of it. The top 6 are as they were. And then further back, there's Albon touching the McLaren. I think that's where Bottas lost a lot of ground as well.
This is Kevin Magnussen on board, heading to turn number 2.
Yes, that's Bottas ahead on the outside. That's Piastri's going to get a nudge. Magnussen hits the back of Bottas twice, and it's all a little bit of a fumble through there. Here we go on board with Albon. Piastri is just so tight there to get 2 or maybe even 3 cars side by side, and they've all got away with it somehow.
Here we go. We are back trackside and we're watching Max Verstappen gaining with every metre. The DRS so efficient on that Red Bull. Is there going to be any opportunity for Charles Leclerc, who's checking the mirrors early? He knows the threat is close. Will he be able to offer a defence? Is it the moment for Max Verstappen to use the slipstream to power alongside and take the lead? It looks like it might be, and say goodbye to Max Verstappen in second place, because that's the race lead for the world champion, breezing on by, and Verstappen takes first place in the race.
It's not even a move, it's just on the straight, and then he could get to the racing line. Didn't even need to defend from Leclerc into turn 1. The pace of the Red Bull is that good that he was able to stay close. Could have almost thought about doing it without DRS, and as soon as the DRS is available, it's a drive-by on the straight. For the second race in a row, Max has no competitor really. There's no chance Hamilton could defend in Melbourne, and Leclerc had nothing to do to defend from Verstappen that time into turn 1. So he's back into second. What he has to do now is try and stick with Max, though, with the help of DRS. If he can stay within a second, he can at least defend from Checo behind. Otherwise, it's going to be a Red Bull 1-2 in no time with that straight line speed.
So, context of the race then that we find ourselves in. This is a massive moment in the World Championship picture between Verstappen and Perez, because every lap that Perez is unable to clear Leclerc, Verstappen can make hay. He can make the gap, he can try and build a window out front at a track where Perez has finished on the podium here more than any other on the calendar.
But look at this. He's already more than a second clear of Leclerc. Leclerc's not done enough in the middle sector to get within DRS range, I don't think. And they flash through the top three, and it's definitely Perez looking racier behind Leclerc. Leclerc has drifted too far back from Verstappen. He's going to be on the cusp of it, but he's gone a bit wide.
He was wide on the curve of 16, and a difficult task of keeping the second Red Bull behind just got that bit harder for Charles Leclerc, and Perez will know a quick, efficient move gives him a chance of battling for victory. And what a great angle to show you how slippery the Navy Red Bull is in a straight line. When it gets DRS, it just becomes plain unfair. Fastest lap for Max Verstappen. We focus on the battle for second place, and Perez unable to make the pass as that's an interesting moment out front. We just saw Verstappen. Did he go deep into turn one there? Because he must have lost a little bit of margin.
Yeah, I think Leclerc just had DRS as well, so it wasn't huge as Vettel runs across the track coming out of turn two and gets wiped out by the Mercedes of Hamilton, flings it off to the inside of the road. Hopefully that is no damage to a Formula One car.
The nature of a street circuit, there's plenty that can be thrown your way. Charles Leclerc there must have been clinging on by milliseconds to DRS, and he's half a second away, using it as a defence rather than a method that it's usually deployed for attacking.
Yeah, it was just, I think it was just on the cusp of it, and even Perez's run was immense down towards turn one, but the braking zone came just in time for Leclerc to not have to defend it. Thought about it right at the end, but it would have been a bit of a Hail Mary move from Checo to go from there. And it's going to be like this for the next 46 laps for Leclerc. He's got to stay within touch. Just again, as soon as he drops back and it's just a Ferrari via Red Bull on that straight, which is 2 kilometres flat out after the next corner, turn 16, it's just a slam dunk. We've seen it already.
Okay, take three. Here we go again. And Sergio Perez trying to edge up closer now. We're looking at the live gap on our timing page, says it's 1.2 seconds between the race leader and Charles Leclerc, which means only one of these cars in the battle for second is going to have the DRS. It's going to be the Red Bull, and we are waiting to see Perez use the efficiency. The barn door opens, and Perez takes a dart to the inside. Charles Leclerc knows he can't fight it with defence on the way in. It's a Red Bull 1-2 as Perez takes second.
Well, Ferrari have stepped forward this weekend, but there's still no match for Red Bull. 1-2, breezing by both of the Red Bulls, and that was it. As soon as Leclerc dropped beyond the 1 second away from Verstappen, it was a fairly straightforward move. Leclerc fancied a bit of a run back on the outside, but from the position that Perez got himself into, there was nothing he was going to do. So now it's just game on between the Bulls out front.
This is a replay of how Sergio Perez, this time, the sole participant in the battle for second place.
Oh, it's ridiculous. That straight line speed difference is absolutely crazy. With a straight like this, it's lower downforce, so the drag of a full rear wing compared to DRS shouldn't be as much as it is in a higher downforce configuration. But the Red Bull is just, it's like it's in a different class.
When that rear wing element opens, it's in another formula, it's in another league. And there are no contests at the moment. Here's Lance Stroll, gained a couple of places.
Fernando, I will not attack. We are both playing the same game.
Copy that.
The teamwork continues at Aston Martin.
And they're stuck in this queue behind Carlos Sainz. So Sainz, then Hamilton, then the two Aston Martins, and Stroll doesn't want to start meddling with his more experienced teammate. And it's probably a good idea, really. Alonso's a very smart driver underneath the helmet. He's thinking about probably his tyres, thinking about the strategy, thinking about the longer game of how he can beat the man that we're on board with, Lewis Hamilton, and the driver ahead, which is Carlos Sainz.
So I confirm, Fernando, that Lance will not attack you. Lance will not attack you. He's doing the same as you.
I mean, he can have a go. I think Hamilton is opening the graining, but it's just a matter of time we overtake them.
Yeah, copy, mate, copy.
I like the start of that. He can have a go if he wants. But
The confidence.
that is the capacity that Fernando Alonso has whilst driving a car to an unbelievable standard.
And we saw yesterday the degradation was higher than anyone expected. We only had 1 hour of free practice, so Stroll really close behind Alonso.
into the pits comes the Alfa Romeo. So Bottas just not having any form this weekend. Gambled on a tyre choice yesterday in the sprint. Today they're gambling on going early. Quick stop, 2.8 seconds, about the best thing you can say about his day so far.
Well, he was just caught out in that kerfuffle that was looked at and has been a racing incident overall between Albon, Piastri, then there was Magnussen and Bottas, all four of them sort of bumping into each other a bit, caused by Albon on the inside. I think he was very pinched, and Bottas somehow lost it. Maybe he had engaged a neutral or something, had an anti-stall from that tap from behind and lost all of his places there.
We're on board driver's eye view with Charles Leclerc negotiating the ever tricky turn 15, plunging down the hill. In the first sector between the battle of the Red Bulls, Perez was a couple of tenths faster than Verstappen, and then in the middle sector Verstappen does the work, goes to work and elongates the gap. Same sort of margin, 0.2 of a second.
These two have been very, very evenly matched through the weekend so far. On one lap pace, on Friday, Verstappen had the edge. On Saturday, Perez had the edge. Now they're 1-2 in the Grand Prix, separated by little over a second. Verstappen takes fastest lap, and then it's Perez. Leclerc barely drifting back as well, although he has just lost DRS, so that might allow a slight breakaway for the two Red Bulls.
There's Williams pitting in the background, which we see a flash of now. And in comes Alexander Albon for his first stop of the Grand Prix on lap 8. And you can see the damage at the front wing of his car.
Yeah, so surely they're going to be looking to change that. His pace has actually been running okay, and they're going to leave it. They're happy with his pace. They're happy that the front wing's going to stay intact, and it is a decent stop as well for Williams. Albon returns medium to hard. Long way to go on that one.
He's missing an end plate, but he's got a brand new set of hard tyres. And if you're not with the ultimate pace, you find yourselves in a gaggle. You know the frequency of a late safety car red flag here is possible. So all those who are going for the hard early on, getting shuffled back on the opening lap and hoping for drama in the final stages. Perez, again, the fastest Red Bull driver through the first third of the circuit.
So Albon's pit stop there, if he's got some pace on a new set of hard tyres in clear air, that might just shuffle everyone to the pit lane. Albon was behind Piastri, then Tsunoda, and then you've got a long-range undercut at some points here for Williams. People are probably going to have to look at his sector times, at least on the outlap, on those hards. How quickly can he fire them up? And then they might have to cover him off. This could lead everyone to pitting far earlier than people wanted on a circuit where we've seen higher degradation than expected.
And you always hear those cheeky strategists point out that if it's not quite your weekend so far, you always go in a little bit earlier to try and get everyone else to follow you, to disrupt their plan. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix belongs to Max Verstappen. It's about a second. They're so evenly matched across the board. And Verstappen showing it's now, where are we? We're under a second. So Perez appears to have got within DRS. It's now 0.8 of a second. More pit stops coming on the way on the right-hand side of your picture.
Okay, so Tsunoda and Piastri take the bait. AlphaTauri and McLaren go in. They've got to cover off Albon. So this is then going to trigger the drivers ahead of them. Your Russells, Norris, Stroll, and Fernando Alonso. And here is Fernando staring at the back of Lewis Hamilton.
So a few laps ago, Alonso reported on the radio, we didn't hear the message, but he said we're getting too close to the car in front. He's thinking about his medium tyres and protecting them. Then we did hear on the radio the two-time world champion from Oviedo saying they're going to grain the tyres. It's going to come back to us, don't worry about it, let's not fight. And the prediction appears to have come true.
He's just a master at reading the race. This is how he got back to the podium in Bahrain, passing both Hamilton and Sainz, who are the two that he's got ahead of him now. He held back in the first half of the race, where Stroll did attack him a little bit too hard on the first lap, and they had contact, lost the places, and got them back with fine moves later on. He's going to get DRS, and Hamilton's just dropped a long way back from Sainz in this period as well. So Hamilton looks like he's suffering quite badly at this stage on his mediums, and he's now starting to back up both of the Aston Martins.
Plunging down the hill to turn 16, 1 second is the gap between the teammates, Verstappen and Perez, the two Red Bulls, then the two Ferraris, and then it's the two former teammates, Hamilton and Alonso, who find themselves in close proximity. Problem earlier on in the weekend for Aston Martin with the DRS. How they need it now. Perez is right underneath Max Verstappen's gearbox there. He's closed the gap significantly, and Hamilton pits. He doesn't fancy a wheel-to-wheel with Fernando Alonso, and he pits to get rid of the tyres.
Yeah, and they're all going to have to stop pitting as well, with others that have jumped in early. Albon, now Norris is covering off his teammate and Yuki Tsunoda, so it's going to trigger this round of pit stops. Maybe put us towards a 2-stop Grand Prix as well, depending on how this hard holds out. But no one ran yesterday, so we don't really know exactly how long it will go. Decent stop for Hamilton, good stop from Norris as well. He's going to come out right in the traffic, though, is Lewis, and this is not going to be good news for him, because Alonso, if he pits maybe on the next lap, can look for an overcut.
That is the definition of where you do not want to be after a pit stop. Fascinating all the way through the field, but the battle for the win, under a second now, with a yellow flag in the first sector. Is anyone recovering from an escape road? Have we had contact with the barrier? Nothing obvious on our monitors for the moment, and it clears up.
Yeah, couldn't see anything, anyone going particularly slowly. Maybe a bit of debris out there momentarily. Look how close this is. Red Bull v Red Bull.
Baseline is...
Yeah, but I'm sliding.
Understood.
So he's losing the tyres, and Perez is in prime position here to have a run at his teammate. There will be no team orders, surely, at this stage, between our early championship rivals.
Now this could bring out the virtual safety car. Nick de Vries has gone deep, and that is why we have the yellow flag. You can see the tyre marks telling the story of what's gone wrong there. Verstappen being told to come into the pits, and Perez will assume the lead at a circuit he adores. The sprint race winner takes the lead, and Red Bull neutralise that situation with strategy.
So de Vries is off at turn 6. It sounded like he had the engine going, but if there's suddenly a safety car or a VSC, Max has pitted at a very bad moment here, because everyone else will save 9 seconds on a pit stop. The main runners behind him haven't pitted. Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Alonso and Stroll all flash past, as does Russell. It's an early stop for Verstappen, who was getting through his tyres just too quickly. Safety car's called.
Full safety car is out, and that is a massive advantage. Then they'll have to respect the delta that they now get on lap 11 of 51. Pitting under the safety car is so advantageous. It's worth 9 seconds around this circuit, and they brought Verstappen in after complaints about the sliding of those tyres, and then his countryman, Nick de Vries, off the road, has brought out the safety car. They're unable to recover it, and we will close the pack up. If you've not made your stop, you are able to get the benefit.
That's a really poor call from Red Bull. As we saw, the AlphaTauri in this position at turn 6, it looks like a mechanical for de Vries, the way that he's got the skid marks just as he's heading out towards the wall there. That's a very strange place to lose the car. He hasn't pulled it off in a great place if it is. Maybe the brakes just suddenly locked up or something on him, but it's going to mean that with Verstappen pitting at that moment, that was really, really poorly read by Red Bull. Perez, Leclerc, Sainz and Alonso will have a much cheaper pit stop, and they might all emerge ahead of Max.
Well, this has changed things dramatically, as you always get around this circuit. And the full safety car is out on lap 11 of 51. Fernando Alonso being called to the pit lane as well, as you would expect. And that is going to be a high-pressure moment for all the pit crews now, because you're going to get teams looking to double stack.
And everyone that's pitted early, including Hamilton and Norris and all those early pitters, they're going to lose out heavily because of this as well. Perez now comes down at a safety car delta. And this is the problem. Max can only go at that speed, whereas when Verstappen pitted, everyone was going at full speed. So Perez will pit, Leclerc's going to pit, everyone that hasn't pitted will dive in, and then the safety car will pick up our race leader, which is surely going to be Sergio Perez.
So in he comes, everyone else forced to run. Ferrari are double stacking, I'm hearing, so they're bringing both cars in. Necessity of doing that, you can't, even if you lose time initially. Bit of a lock-up, that's Perez exiting as Leclerc comes in to make his, he will hope, single tyre change. And this is in the window that Pirelli predicted, but now watch Max Verstappen. It's very tight on the entry there to the pit lane between Alonso and Russell, Stroll and Russell I should say. Stroll backs up, trying to give his Aston Martin team time to double stack.
Yeah, Russell actually overtaking Stroll in the pits, running right together as they got to the line there. Stroll was backing off.
And out front, it's Perez and Leclerc getting the benefit of pitting under the safety car, and they find themselves ahead of Max Verstappen, who has some overtaking to do again. He's going to win for the second year in a row here at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
That's the mistake then from Red Bull. Pitting Max has meant that when the safety car was called, which it looked like it may well be, and we heard from Christian Horner in pre-race, when there's a car by the barriers, you can expect a safety car. Well, Red Bull didn't expect it right with Verstappen, called him in, and he was under pressure from his teammate, but you've got to take the chance that there'll be a safety car, because everyone else has had a cheaper pit stop, and actually Verstappen is still in third place. It's not a horrendous result, he's still in the fight for the win, but he's got to repass Charles Leclerc, who's got himself back in a second.
Well, a dramatic intervention from the safety car. You'd expect nothing less at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And they're waiting for the field to clear in. And the marshals will say, go and get the tractor, boys. And it is time to recover the Alpha Tauri out there as the race takes a pause. Interesting stories everywhere you look. Alonso calling it well with the tyre wear for the Mercedes. Will they go better on the hard tyre than they did before? But the main story of Verstappen passing Charles Leclerc, building that gap. Perez putting the laps in to put pressure on. Red Bull did not want their drivers dicing for position for the lead. They pitted Verstappen, and moments later we went from double-waved yellows to a full safety car, and that is Nick de Vries clipping the apex wall and damaging the front left.
Yeah, so it is just a bit greedy on the apex of the left-hander, and it is a driver error then for de Vries. I was wondering how on earth you end up in this position, but he couldn't turn the car to the right.
No, my left wheel is broken, mate.
And de Vries' tough start to full-time life in Formula 1 gets a little bit harder. Look how close this was then. Coming down to the pit lane speed limit, Russell overtakes Stroll. We've seen that before. Sebastian Vettel exploited that rule, that you're allowed to do that. And Stroll's trying to back it off. He's not looking at Russell, and then suddenly he is. And the Mercedes comes through. He's kept that position as well, but you'd expect it with Aston Martin having to double stack. So Russell's really taken advantage. Man, it started 11th in this Grand Prix, is now up in 6th. His teammate Lewis Hamilton was one that lost out, as did Lando Norris in the McLaren, taking the earlier pit stop. And then he's gained from the double stacking Aston Martin team as well.
That was the lock-up for Charles Leclerc as he came into the pits at the exact moment that Sergio Perez was vacating it. So an opportunity for Charles Leclerc on the restart. Remember, you have to stay single file on the restart until the start-finish line. And then Verstappen will be wanting to re-establish his race lead and get past his rival for the race win today and his teammate and rival for the World Championship. Leclerc, who came into the weekend with his worst ever start in a Ferrari season. 6 points in the first 3 races, 7 points in the sprint yesterday, aiming for 25 points for the win today as he tries to fight back against the Red Bulls.
Ocon and Hülkenberg, 8th and 9th, have not stopped. They were the two that started from the pit lane today on that hard tyre, and it hasn't worked out well for them this. They're up in the top 10 for now, but everyone else will be hoping to go much further into the race, or maybe even to the end if the hard goes on. And Ocon and Hülkenberg still must take a stop.
So Hamilton losing out with the timing dramatically there, where he came out anyway with car placement, and then finding himself having made that stop when others could take the 9-second benefit of pitting under the safety car, which is ending at the end of this lap. The green flag will fly once again around the Baku City circuit, and we will go back to competing for the win and the conclusion of our 51 laps.
Hard tyres on everyone in the field. How is the warm-up? Going to be going pretty slowly behind the safety car. It's going to be even slower when Sergio Perez takes control of the pace, which he can do now as the safety car lights go off. Bunch up the pack, and the tyre temp is going to be cooling and cooling all the way down to that braking zone for turn 1. Verstappen had a good restart yesterday, made a place on Russell. Can he do the same on Leclerc? Can Leclerc fight Perez for the lead? It's a really tricky one to navigate.
It is, because you can't go at the very last moment because everyone will know when you're going. So you've got to judge it between not going too late and too early. That is the conundrum facing Sergio Perez, who has had this work against him in the past in his career for Red Bull, but this time he got the benefit of pitting under the safety car, and he's the one who decides when to take the field back to green flag racing, and he's leaving it late and later still.
Leclerc looking racy behind him. Now Perez goes.
And we are back racing in Azerbaijan. Charles Leclerc, does he get a run to the inside? Will he take the opportunity? Perez feeling the need to defend. He's on cold tyres, remember. There's an opportunity for Max Verstappen as they make their way through. Will they all make the corner? Cold tyres, cold brakes, they will. And it's the top three as they were. That's a late lunge to the inside for the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, who gets the place back that he lost in the pit stop. But this is Max Verstappen darting out of the slipstream, trying to immediately take the Ferrari back. Can he do it? This time he does it without DRS. Big move for Max Verstappen's Grand Prix.
Yeah, he needed that. Needed to clear the Ferrari, and now he can go and chase after Perez. Alonso on the inside of Sainz. That's opportunistic. Brilliant from Alonso.
Phenomenal move for fourth position for Fernando Alonso, who just throws the Aston to the inside, says checkmate, and takes fourth place.
Really good stuff there at turn 4. All without DRS on that safety car restart. Fantastic stuff. George Russell lost a place to Lance Stroll, and I thought Russell was heading to the barriers the way that he braked so late on that restart. He might have even clipped them, you know, the Tech Pro on the outside. Lost the place to Stroll, and Hamilton gained 2 places past Ocon and Hulkenberg. So the Mercedes now line astern in 7th and 8th.
Charles Leclerc got a great run on Sergio Perez, not enough of one, then was compromised. Verstappen saw it immediately, and Verstappen taking an advantage. So a sniff of the race lead, turning into P3 for Charles Leclerc.
And you know, both Ferraris had good restarts as well. Sainz was right with Verstappen, but then both were compromised, couldn't get the tyres fired up to go through turn 1 from the outside, and the Red Bulls managed to extend. Perez in the lead, Verstappen past Leclerc, and then Alonso passes compatriot for fourth place at turn 4 as well.
Lap 14 of 51, Sergio Perez trying to win this race for the second time. The same applies to his teammate behind, trying to go back-to-back. Winner last year, looking to be the winner this year. Sainz trying to respond, and further back, that's a dive to the inside, and a tidy move for Lewis Hamilton, who gets past his teammate.
Russell's not got going yet on this restart. Caught himself out on the actual restart at turn 1. Lost the place to Stroll on the exit. Now Hamilton comes through as well, and that's 3 places gained for Lewis Hamilton. So he's right back into contention. It's kind of made up for a lot of that bad luck by pitting earlier.
And Russell's advantage of pitting under the safety car evaporating as he is passed in the opening stages of the restart from the safety car. 1.5 seconds the gap for the lead of the race. Red Bull will look to manage things out front. This is the replay of how Max Verstappen took second position.
Maximised the slipstream, got to the inside. Ferrari straight line speed is actually fairly solid down towards turn 3 without the DRS, but Verstappen got himself the inside line. And then I want to see the next bit on board. Here we go with Fernando Alonso. So Sainz is looking good here, gets a little bit boxed in behind his teammate. Alonso just says, wow, if you don't want the inside, I'll take it, and sticks it in there, laid on the brakes, committed. Brilliant from Alonso.
Classic Fernando Alonso. Give him a car's width, he's always going to take it. And then the last of the flurry of overtakes, that was a bit of a car's width as well.
Well, that was a restart, sorry guys.
That's Russell's summary on how it went.
Good clinical move that from Hamilton. Russell maybe thought he covered off the inside well enough, but he hadn't. There was a car width.
Now we
dived for it.
We saw, Jolien, when Charles Leclerc was coming into the pits, that there was a lock-up for Charles Leclerc, and when Perez was coming out, they have noted a possible unsafe release for the race leader.
I didn't see anything in that. The Ferrari and the Red Bull pit bays are right next to each other. I think Leclerc was slowing up and almost looked distracted by Perez as much as anything. Well, maybe we'll get a better view, but it looked like nothing to me.
We saw the shot from the ground level camera person giving us a great view of the pit stop. Maybe we can have another look. And no further investigation on that possible unsafe release. So a quick check, and they agree with Joe.
Good. It's game on at the front. Red Bull v Red Bull once again. They are still the class act in terms of race pace, even if Leclerc can out-qualify them. And this time, it's Verstappen hunting down Sergio Perez. This time, today, Max doesn't have a hobbled car either. He's got a car fully intact still. But in the first stint, Checo just did a great job, kept the tyres alive better, and managed to heap the pressure on. So whilst Red Bull dropped a clanger by pitting Verstappen when they did, they kind of got away with it. They're still 1-2. It just cost Max the lead. You've got to also give Checo great credit for pressing Verstappen's side of the garage into making that pit stop.
It is fairly consistent, the pattern that we see across the circuit. Perez very comfortable in the first sector. Verstappen then mighty in the middle part of the lap, and they're fairly even on the run from turn 16 to the line.
There's just a long way to go. There's a really long way to go. So this is a war, not a battle, between the Red Bull duo now. I'm sure the pace will fluctuate around a bit.
This is Lance Stroll, and he is getting tight to the wall, very tight to the wall.
Hit the wall, hit tire.
He is a lucky boy. That is a big hit at the wall, and I'm sure you'll all notice that's the same part as Nick de Vries hit, and ended up parked on those skid marks there down towards turn 6, which is why we had the safety car. The Aston Martin, it's a really solidly built car, isn't it? The amount of contact they have absorbed so far in 3 and a bit races, it's just crazy how they still keep going. And the AlphaTauri just bent the wishbone straight up on the left front. Stroll is lucky to get away with that.
Perez again, going for the fastest first sector of the race so far. Verstappen, personal best in all 3 sectors of the racetrack. Those two are pushing on at the front of the field. Charles Leclerc's going to be coming under pressure from Fernando Alonso. The stewards had a look at George Russell's entry, going wheel to wheel with Lance Stroll on the way into the pit lane. I think he had to keep one wheel in the fast lane, is what they would have been checking. He did, no further investigation required.
Yeah, a lot of minor incident for the stewards to be getting into so far, but it's race on once again, and it was smart work from Russell to do that and execute it well. Got himself ahead of Stroll. Stroll was backing off, and George did that part of it well. Then he had the position for the restart and lost it. Hamilton's looking quick in the Mercedes, in behind Stroll, who radios and says the car is still okay. It must be to be doing the pace he's running. Still in behind Carlos Sainz. Just lucky to get away with that. You can thank the strength composites department at Aston Martin, I think, for that one. I'm interested in the battle for third. Leclerc is just dropping away, nearly a second a lap from the Red Bulls now. And I think he knows that his battle today now is for a podium. Red Bull, they are still up the road, and he's got Alonso behind, who so far this season has been probably the best car in race pace outside of them.
Fernando Alonso, third place of every single Grand Prix so far this year, looking to keep that run going. Charles Leclerc is the driver who stands in front. And all the experience, the longest ever Formula One career in the history of the sport for Fernando Alonso. We heard it on the radio earlier when he was saying, it's okay, the Mercedes are going to hit graining. This is on board with Kevin Magnussen, trying to fight his way through. A great driver's eye view of a move that takes him out the order, and he just hangs onto it for a second before losing the place again.
Heart in mouth for K-Mag. Oh, the wall juts out there, you see it, where it just juts. And it can cause drivers to hit it, and K-Mag gets the perfect little bit of wheel spin back out to fishtail it round, but he didn't manage to keep the place. It was looking like it was going to be a brilliant move, laid on the brakes, bit of a dummy move, and he couldn't quite get it stopped to keep the place, but a bit of a heart-in-mouth one, I think, for Magnussen.
This is finally poised out front, 1.4 seconds for the lead of the Grand Prix. Verstappen, last time around, fastest of anyone through the first sector, but very comparable. Only 1/100th quicker than Perez managed there as he tries to close the gap, and it really will be nervy moments on the pit wall at Red Bull. We're early in the season. Jolien was talking you through earlier on, surely they won't deploy the team orders. Any option to do so could be extremely unpopular.
The Lance, my brake balance suggestion, as I am now, I think it's a good help.
Yeah, copy, Fernando, copy, I will understood.
He's like a big brother out there. What Fernando Alonso have we got so far this year? I've never seen a team work quite as well as this together. Fernando now trying to get Lance to change the setup from his cockpit to match his, using all of his experience to help his younger brother today.
There were eyebrows raised when he joined Aston Martin in the summer break. It has been a dream move so far, and it is looking rather good. Kevin Magnussen is making progress. 1 lap later, I can tell you the information that he's moving up to 16th position. This time he's tightly made the pass after the error last time.
Not deep on the brakes this time, managed to get it stopped and made the move. Been quite impressed with Magnussen so far this weekend. Quite a long way down the order, but missed a huge amount of track time on Friday. Was unlucky in qualifying as well with an issue. When he's been on track, he's been pretty quick.
This is Esteban Ocon at turn 15. Is he about to brush the logo off the tyres? Oh, he got close.
That's another one. That is such an easy corner to just tag that wall, and I think he did touch it. I think he touched it with the right rear, but it's the perfect kiss from Ocon.
That wall has taken some punishment across the entire weekend with Formula 2 and Formula 1. A brand new format of weekend, but the same treatment for the wall at turn 15. Perez responding this time around, fastest first sector of anyone out there, as the toing and froing between the top two in the Grand Prix continues. 1.5 seconds. Oh, very nearly over the road, all over the road for Stroll, who's checking the mirrors. He very nearly clipped the barrier. He did clip the barrier a few moments ago, and he's invited Lewis Hamilton to tuck up in the slipstream and to shape for the pass. Stroll, who put a good move on earlier on, one Mercedes, is about to be passed by the other, as the similar power unit for the two of them, but it's DRS for Hamilton, and the mistake at 16 opens the door. Hamilton feeling the need to jump across and defend the place. He's up to 6th.
Big mistake on a corner where you don't want to be doing that, running out wide, which leads on to that 2-kilometre long blast, and Hamilton was in no position to make the move until Stroll exited down to the right-hand side and left himself with no defence possible by the time Hamilton picked up the DRS as well. So another move for Lewis, gets himself up into 6th, Stroll down to 7th. Maybe hasn't quite put that brake balance suggestion in, or maybe there's something else there for Lance, but he did well to save it in the end, because it was a huge tank slapper that he had.
Let's go on board with Lance Stroll. This is the mistake that in about 2 kilometres time allowed Lewis Hamilton through.
Always looks a bit more sedate when you jump on board, but it was just the fact he crossed the curb, then had to tighten his line as well. There we go, big swapper, and then trying to filter in between the curb and the wall, just so late to power, and Hamilton just gobbled him up on the straight.
Oh, Sergio Perez is under pressure. There's the shot to show you that. He is dancing to the wall at turn 15. Wonderful camera angle there. And we took a step back in the commentary box at that moment. He's under pressure from his world champion teammate.
That was just a random cut to the lead as well, and he's having a big slide towards the barriers, millimetres away from hitting them. I'm loving how hard the drivers are having to push here. The two Red Bulls, still 1.2 seconds separating them, have checked out from the Ferrari behind. There's Leclerc in the distance, in the haze now, as the Red Bulls are a second a lap quicker, pushing each other so hard for this win. And Perez, he'll be hurting the tyres a little bit as well with spikes like that, and giving Verstappen a bit more incentive, but for now, Verstappen remains outside the DRS zone.
George Russell trying to repair that difficult restart lap. His verdict, not ours, and he is getting ever closer. The graphic to show you that as he gets close to the rear wing of the Aston Martin. He will have the benefit of DRS. Russell, who did not finish the last Grand Prix, looking to improve to 7th place here.
I want to see a replay of Russell's restart as well into that first corner. Wouldn't have surprised me if he had a little tap of the wall. He was in so deep on the cold, hard tyres at that stage. Has regrouped, but he's down in 8th, having been up in 6th as the safety car came in. So Stroll went past, then Hamilton went past. Hamilton's now past Stroll. Stroll's a little bit scrappy at the moment in the Aston Martin. Alonso's looking measured in 4th. 3 seconds back from Leclerc. Is he playing the long game, or does he not have the pace? This is the moment that we cut to, and whoa, it's good. It's really lovely stuff to see from Perez. A little slide, he's pressing on. Not up to the wall, but he didn't have a lot of margin left.
When you see the whole thing, might have got a tad excited about that, but when you jump to it and you wonder, is he sending it to the wall? But phenomenal that they are battling out front. This is brilliant to see, the two main contenders for the World Championship. Perez yesterday whittling away at Verstappen's advantage. He wants a much bigger swing than that, though. At the moment, it's 6 points further towards Perez. And Perez knows if he's going to take this World Championship, he's got to win at his favoured circuits. It's a street circuit, so it's a favoured circuit for Sergio Perez.
Yeah, winner already here a couple of years ago. Strong on this circuit forever. Podiums in the Force India days. Now he leads the race, but he cannot let up with Verstappen so close behind. Here's George Russell looking at the back of Lance Stroll, a little bit further away this time. No DRS for George. Still frustrated in behind the Aston Martin. Hamilton up the road, chasing Carlos Sainz, now only just outside of DRS range behind the Ferrari.
Tires are stable, we are happy with tires and happy to push more and go hunting.
So an indication on the radio there that Ferrari are really actively managing that situation. They have struggled with tyre wear so far this season, the worst example of which was Jeddah, the second round of the year, where they just faded miles back from the contenders at the front.
Well, what about Bahrain as well, where Sainz was in a different league to Alonso at the end of the race, and Fernando picked him off and was cruising to the podium at the end. Leclerc didn't finish the race with an engine issue in the season opener, but certainly if you compare Alonso and Sainz, the DEG on the Aston Martin was so much better than the DEG on the Ferrari. Now Alonso sits between the two Ferraris. Leclerc has been a league ahead of Sainz so far this weekend in that teammate battle. He has been the man on one lap to deliver. He's been, particularly on one lap, so quick, and he's been giving Sainz all manner of headaches. On the longer run, Sainz has been okay. Maybe they can work together to try and keep the podium is what they're aiming for with Leclerc, maybe Sainz, but Alonso is probably the man that they don't want to be sniffing around, because that Aston Martin has been just so kind on its tyres, and we know already what Fernando will be thinking in the cockpit. Let them push, let them damage their tyres, and I'll pick them off later.
Good final sector for Max Verstappen means that he is on the cusp now of DRS. He was getting very close across the line, and 0.2 quicker in that final sector. That can only be really an exit through turn 16, or a super efficient one for Verstappen through that corner.
In a radio for Hamilton saying we're seeing degradation on the hard tyre. I think we're heading to a two-stop race here. I'd be amazed with the early pit stops there if we're going to get to the end on the predicted one stop, and particularly with Albon triggering the round of pit stops. It has not worked out for him or Piastri or those guys that try to cover him off. And it meant that everyone dived in. Here's Hulkenberg on Ocon.
So these two are in a comparable place in the race. They both started from the pit lane, and Hulkenberg, who has struggled sometimes this year for tyre wear, putting the pressure on and trying to find his way past the Alpine, the heavily revised Alpine. They've not had a great weekend when they wanted a nice clean one to understand the new parts they've got on the car.
Didn't want to commit to that inside though, did he? Down towards turn 3. Looked like he could have had the move done, but was just tentative at the end on braking. Looked a bit almost after you down at turn 3 with Ocon checking the mirrors. Knew Hulkenberg was there. They are the only two drivers in the field that haven't pitted. They will need to pit, and when they do, they can't go for the hard tyre as well, so they're going to have to go for that medium that was degrading a lot more earlier on in the race, whereas everyone else can chuck on a new hard to go to the end if it's a two-stop.
Here's Russell on the radio.
I think we should consider plan B.
Copy.
Stroll is really struggling with the rear. I don't think he'll make it to the end.
Yeah, A firm.
So plan B, Russell, I don't know what plan B will be for Mercedes, but plan A presumably was the one-stop, and plan B I think was the two-stop. So I think we're looking at maybe everyone having to do something similar. Russell is very close behind Stroll here.
Russell has the run, he has the DRS. He reported his Canadian rival ahead was struggling with his tyres, and it has been far more than expected. Is he going to get the other run to turn 3? Opportunity for Russell on the back straight.
Well, actually, Hamilton is also really close behind Sainz, so Russell's going to have another chance into 3. Hamilton has got DRS on Sainz now, and both Mercedes are looking racy still, and others are suffering some day. We jump on board with Russell, looking at the back of Stroll still, and he couldn't get close enough for the move. But look ahead of that, you've got Hamilton hustling the back of Sainz for 5th place now. So both Mercedes looking decent at this stage. I do just wonder, Hamilton did his personal best lap of the race on the last, so not obvious signs of DEG, even though there was some communication about it on his radio. I think for others, the DEG is creeping up, and they're going to be looking at a two-stopper, but with a chance of safety car as well, still in the remainder of the Grand Prix, that could yet play a big factor, as we saw it play a bit of a factor so far.
So the entire pit wall right now just hoping to elongate the stint as much as possible to negate the effect of a safety car intervening and having that split where some have stopped and some haven't, but we are getting the field closing up now. Russell close to Stroll, Hamilton close to Sainz. It's the battle you're looking at the moment, and Ocon and Hulkenberg yet to stop, have Norris, Tsunoda, Piastri, basically everyone behind. Glued to them.
Sainz is feeling a bit of heat as well. We ran a little bit wide out of 16, but managed to just about not straddle that exit curve. Hamilton very close. Russell very close to the back of Stroll as well still. There they flash into view behind as Stroll knows it.
Fantastic sound of the V6 turbocharged engine. Hamilton now with DRS. That Mercedes car has been struggling for ultimate straight line speed across the weekend.
Yeah, that's the problem they've got. They've actually got quite a quick race car right now, but the only move that Hamilton could make look easy was on his teammate. Even that one wasn't easy. He still had to dive right to the inside. But in terms of straight line speed, even with DRS, they're not having big runs on cars ahead. They have such a draggy car that they can't use their pace right now, and Hamilton is suffering as a result, dropping half a second away per lap from Alonso and the battle for third.
So Ocon and Hulkenberg need an intervention of the safety car later on, but for everyone else fighting for the points, 9th and 10th when they eventually make their stops, Norris and Tsunoda are in close proximity. Piastri, part of that, just been dropped. Piastri not been feeling well all weekend, trying to nurse his way through this 4th round of the season. The driver who scored his first points at his home race in Melbourne to emulate Mark Webber and Daniel Ricciardo, who did exactly the same thing at the start of their Formula One careers.
Still the Red Bulls press on. Less than a second and a half separates Perez in the lead from Verstappen in second. So evenly matched all weekend long, and they're reaching half distance in the Grand Prix, and they cannot let up. They're still checking out at a second a lap quicker than Leclerc, who is now 11 seconds away from Max Verstappen. It's a 2-horse race, and still Verstappen just away from there, whisker away from the DRS, and can't put real pressure on Perez. But Checo will know any mistake, like Stroll made at the final corner, and he will lose the race lead.
All of Sergio Perez's wins, the last 4 have come at street circuits, at Jeddah, Marina Bay, Monaco, back here in 2021 when he won his first Red Bull race for the team in Baku after a late puncher, and late drama on the restart for Max Verstappen, and then getting past Hamilton, went sailing on by at this corner. That was back in 2021. In 2023, Verstappen is giving it everything through that final sector, seeing if he can get a run, can't quite get the DRS, then has a lap to manage, then goes again, and that will be the story all the way through.
Big train forming up behind Ocon, whose Alpine have had a horrible weekend this weekend. Missed a load of miles combined in practice with Gasly's fire, and Ocon had a separate issue. Trying to catch up, didn't qualify particularly well. Ocon's got himself into 9th right now, but hasn't pitted. Remember, he started from the pit lane along with Nico Hulkenberg. Now they're running 9th and 10th, but they're lapping a second slower than George Russell ahead, 1.3 seconds slower than Stroll on that last lap. And they're just backing everyone outside of the top 8 away from the lead fight. So Norris, who was on fresh, hard tyres in quite a quick McLaren there, is getting quite frustrated in 11th place. If he can clear these 2 ahead, he would check out and at least try and establish himself clear of Tsunoda and Piastri behind. But they're just being bunched up in a big DRS train. Kind of need Hulkenberg to attack Ocon properly or drop away from him.
Everyone behind has been willing Hulkenberg on lap after lap after lap. He had that one opportunity into turn 3, shaped for the move but didn't have the momentum. Hulkenberg, who scored his first point since returning to Formula One last time out in Melbourne with a strong 7th, and you know what happened to the Alpines in the detonation of their race on that late standing restart. The only 2 Grand Prix we've ever seen a restart that late with a standing start, Melbourne, and then here a couple of years ago.
Very slow lap, the last one from Lewis Hamilton. He dropped a good second away from Carlos Sainz, and now Stroll's back towards the DRS window of the lead Mercedes at the moment in 6th. So Hamilton 2.5 seconds slower than Perez on the last lap. I don't know if he made a big mistake or just decided to drop away from Sainz maybe and save the tyres for a little bit and have another charge shortly, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Looks like it might have been in the first sector for Hamilton. Looks like a deep moment for him. That's where he lost the majority of the time. Let's wind it back to lap 24 with Hulkenberg.
Hit wall entry 15, check front right, pressure.
Pressure's okay, all okay.
So that's a new one for this weekend. We've seen plenty of walls being struck, but not the entry to turn 15.
I can't remember people hitting that at all, the entry to 15. The exit is the classic Baku crash. Hulkenberg partly a bit sloppy, partly a bit greedy there, trying to open up the entry to this corner. Again, the wall just juts out and then comes back in. The more you open up entries, you gain a load towards the exit. Hulkenberg trying to get ever closer to Ocon and just tapping the wall on a part of the track where you're really just positioning the car with the steering. You're not forced out there with understeer or oversteer. Maybe a slight lapse of concentration, or just trying to push the limits a little bit too much for Nico, but goes into the lucky category for that one. Got away with it. It was only just a fine kiss rather than the clonk that we've seen from De Vries, who's out, and Stroll, who is particularly lucky, still running there in 7th between the two Mercedes.
Okay, plenty of battles that were within a second have now found themselves dropping back. We've seen that with Hamilton, as now Hulkenberg is the one under pressure from the train behind down to turn 1. Gives you a good view of the Caspian Sea on the left-hand side. Hulkenberg under pressure from the Papaya McLaren, pushing now to the corner where Hulkenberg was nearly past the Alpine, couldn't make it, and now he's looking rearwards instead of forwards.
He's just dropped away on that lap from Ocon.
What do you think between plan A and plan C? Are you still happy plan A?
Yes, the moment, yes.
Plan A surely is to go to the end on this set of tyres then for Sainz, whose times have stabilised. In fact, Alonso did his best lap of the race so far on the last lap. Pretty reasonable lap time, leaves him within 2 seconds of Leclerc. With Hulkenberg just backing away from Ocon, he's still fairly close, but he's outside of the DRS range. It will present a chance for Norris in the quicker McLaren to try and clear him, and if he can clear Hulkenberg, you'd have thought he'd go and clear Ocon afterwards as well.
So in the period of time since we've gone back, the gap between first and second has varied between 1.1 and 1.7. That's been the margin between the top two for the last few laps of the race. And Verstappen going again, getting it inside a 1.5 now, trying to pass his teammate and take the lead. And drop back to 2.1 now, so maybe Verstappen thinking of the tyres, thinking of the long game.
That pace has been metronomic. I think Verstappen's maybe just made a bit of a mistake in the first sector, because the last lap there was only a 10th separating the two Red Bulls. So maybe he's just made a mistake in one of the braking zones at 1 or 2, and that is the first sign of any mistake that they've been making within a 10th or 2 of their best laps all the way through so far, in a Red Bull that doesn't suffer from degradation as much as most of the rest of the field, or in fact all of the rest of the field out there. Leclerc upped his own pace as well in response to Alonso, so best lap of the race for Leclerc, a little bit quicker than Alonso's best, and those two still trading times in 3rd and 4th, clearing away from Carlos Sainz behind. So we've got 2 for the lead and 2 for 3rd at the moment.
Verstappen now at 2.3 seconds, 14 laps. That gap was between 1.1 and 1.7. Only now does it get to a management sort of gap. If there was a mistake, we'll find it, we'll clip it up, we'll show it to you as we work our way through the 4th Grand Prix of the season. We're checking in the Woking-based team, McLaren, second most wins in Formula One history. That's Will Joseph, who you will hear on the radio to that driver. Car number 4, Lando Norris, who was on the podium this time last year when he was racing, the only one of the drivers outside the big 3 teams to be on the rostrum last season, but it's not been the start to the campaign that McLaren wanted, and the way this race has gone, he is fighting for minor points today.
And Hulkenberg's done well to stabilise that gap. He looks actually just quicker than Ocon. Even when Ocon has managed to shake him out of DRS range, Hulkenberg's coming back towards it. You can see he's within a second there for 9th place. So good pace from Nico today. They took that car out of Parc Ferme to change the suspension settings after basically Kevin Magnussen was really happy yesterday, Hulkenberg was not. So Nico wanted to change the car and at least have a more raceable Haas today for 3 times the duration.
Just give us a heads up with what you're struggling with, Max.
The balance between the diff and engine braking is not good.
Okay, we'll have a look.
That's in response to Verstappen making a mistake on the last lap. And on the last lap, finally, there was a 6/10 gap between the two Red Bulls. It was in the first sector where Max made a mistake, where you have some big braking events. And Verstappen then maybe just struggling with oversteer as he's coming at end of the braking. And that's a pretty fine margin to the wall, but it looks like perfection from Max. This was him down at turn 1 there. And again, brushing the walls. And they're doing this lap after lap. It looks impressive, but when you imagine there's 51 laps of that finer margin and nailing it, there we go again, Verstappen right up to the wall. It's such a high level of skill that these drivers are operating at so far today. The margin for error around this circuit is nil, and they are just banging in the lap times. Verstappen on the previous one, just a slight mistake. Red Bull saying, what's up? And I think it's just a little bit of off the brake oversteer potentially for Max, so he's just finding it inconsistent.
You are seeing the area of track dominance for Max Verstappen versus Sergio Perez. Verstappen in blue, Perez in white. And there has been no DRS for Verstappen since he took that second position. Perez working so hard to make sure that was the case because he knows how efficient that Red Bull DRS is. I've also had a check-in with those on the ground and across team radio whether there's any management of that gap. That was just the drivers going at it. So the first radio message there was to bring you, we did bring you.
And when you consider they're miles quicker than the guys behind, there can't be management of the gap. Surely they're not running to a pace and still escaping this battle for third as quickly as they are. And it is a battle for third. Leclerc now with Alonso, who's just done his personal best lap of the race, 7/10 quicker than Leclerc on the last lap. Is this the time, 20 laps to go, is this the time that Fernando could start to up the pressure on Charles Leclerc in third place? Pole man today, dropped back, got back to second with the safety car, dropped back again, hasn't had a car to fight the Red Bulls, but has track position over the Aston Martin. But he has got a car that traditionally has suffered more with degradation against a driver and a team that has been very kind on their tyres.
Charles Leclerc is chasing his first podium of the campaign. Fernando Alonso has been in the position that he's chasing in every race of the campaign so far. Leclerc, who started on pole, his best qualifying of the year so far, up against Alonso, who started 6th, his worst qualifying of the campaign.
Just his race management is what sets Fernando Alonso as still one of the best out there. His pace good. I think he said it a few years ago, he's maybe not the best in any category, but he's maybe the second best in all of them, which makes him such a complete racer.
9.9 in so many attributes.
Exactly, he is the jack of all trades, Fernando, even if he hasn't maybe got the 1% of qualifying pace of the man that's ahead of him right now. He's got the race pace and he's got the nous to deliver this Aston Martin back towards a podium fight, race after race this season, and now he has 1.1 seconds adrift of Leclerc, who will start feeling the heat. Another quarter of a second. Alonso was quicker on the last lap.
Just feels like Alonso's turning the wick up when it matters. Working through the laps, knowing when he needs to make the move. You've got a shot of Laurent Mekies there, the assistant team principal at Ferrari, the race director at Ferrari, who is AlphaTauri bound to be only the second team boss there since 2005 for the team, replacing Franz Tost, who is retiring at the end of the season.
Entire life on the hard is as expected.
So that means it's okay. And I think after there was some chitter-chatter about degradation, actually a lot of drivers are starting to do personal best laps. We've seen Alonso and Leclerc both up their pace. Hamilton and Stroll have just done personal best on the last lap as well. They both start homing back in on Carlos Sainz for 5th. It looks more and more like they're going to go to the end on this set of hards. It's just about racecraft then. We've got a good last 20 laps ahead of us. Verstappen's just done the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. Perez is trying to respond and he's setting personal bests on this time around through a couple of seconds, and Perez still flying. The Red Bull's trading times, and that is not done by any stretch out front. This battle is raging now for third, although Alonso's dropped back a little bit on this lap, and then we've got a queue forming up behind Sainz for 5th.
Perez with the new fastest lap of the race. That's worth 1 bonus point if he can keep hold of it. Max Verstappen 2.3 seconds back. This is turn 15. He turns in and he would have been heart in mouth for a second there.
Does he brush it? Does he brush it? Well, he does.
Indeed.
He does with the right rear. A little bit of give in the Tech Pro, and he needed it. Caught it with the right rear, just a brush. Get away with it, but that is the level that they're doing, lap after lap, corner after corner. It's just stunning to watch.
A real exhibition of driving skill put on by the Red Bulls out front. Perez leading Verstappen, a position that he took thanks to the timing of the safety car earlier on. Before that, Verstappen getting past Charles Leclerc to lead the Grand Prix, but pitting when there was a car stopped on track. Then it was upgraded to a full safety car. We're looking further back down the order, selling the dummy and making his way through. That is a fine move on the attack for Pierre Gasly. and it's only for 18th, but it's the best moment of his weekend so far.
A man that will be looking forward to Miami, I think, Pierre. the weekend that he's had, a lot of bad luck, reliability problems are plenty, a crash then in qualifying on Friday, trying to make up for lost time, and now running around at the back of the field with Valtteri Bottas, who's another man that'll be looking forward to the next race. With just the race pace that he's had for a while has not been good, Valtteri. And Alfa Romeo not looking strong either after that decent showing they had in Bahrain, dropping back quickly.
Thought about the outside, chopped to the inside, made his way to 18th position. It is a weekend to forget for Pierre Gasly. There's the best moment of it, though, for the man who's been on the podium around here for AlphaTauri in the past, back in 2021, when it was Vettel in P2 and Sergio Perez the winner that day. He's been mighty through the first sector of the Grand Prix. Perez all the way through. He's been setting purple sectors in the first third of the circuit.
Still nothing to separate the top two out front. Still, this train is grouped together. Ocon in 9th, Hulkenberg from 10th. It's about a second and a half away from Esteban Ocon, but Lando in the McLaren, just a bit like the Mercedes, they don't have a huge top speed in the McLaren, and he's not able to get close enough in the braking zones to pressure Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg must stop, remember, Ocon must stop, so that is going to elevate Norris and Tsunoda into the points.
It is indeed. So they've got to think about the final stages for this moment. Tsunoda, who scored his first points in Australia, and Norris, who scored his first points of the season in Australia as well. Lando Norris leaping up from last in the championship to 8th place, thanks to that result of the early championship standings in 2023.
The reason that Ocon and Hulkenberg are still going is if there's a safety car now, they've got themselves to a window where everyone will probably take a chance to make another pit stop, and they will then be in a net 9th or 10th. So they've still got a chance of points, but they're going to need some intervention from someone or something.
What happened at 15? Copy.
Oh my days, that's your race leader, and he's hit the wall at 15. He is pushing to try and keep himself ahead of Verstappen. They've still got just over 2 seconds separating them. Perez does fastest up, then Verstappen does fastest lap, and Checo has hit that Hulkenberg wall on the entry of 15. Oh,
Trying to get the widest possible line to turn into 15. The driver in 2nd place, clipping the Tech Pro barrier, which you can push out there. Perez clipping it on the inside of the slightly less forgiving concrete wall, and they are leaving nothing out there. This is a real, true battle of the bulls, and the first time we've really seen an ultimate straight fight for victory between the two of them.
I love it. We had Jeddah, didn't we, where Verstappen got back into the fight after having his issues in qualifying, and Perez did enough in the race, but there was about 5 seconds separating them by the time it was game on. Here there was nothing separating them.
So we are at the tire life till the end.
A bit of a push-on message now to Sainz, who does do his personal best on that last lap. Still has a train of Hamilton, Stroll and Russell tucked in behind him in 5th place. I wonder, is there going to be any Pirelli markings left on these tyres when they get into Parc Ferme after this one? The amount of brushes people have had with the wall, various corners. So many, and yet it's only De Vries who's clobbered it enough to actually do some damage.
It's Valtteri Bottas in the pit lane. He came in first earlier on to go onto the hard tyres. He's had enough of them. On go the mediums as he tries to have some purchase in the Grand Prix, try and salvage something from a race that he's won before in the past. Very nearly a 2-time winner here. Late puncher in 2018, robbing him of a maiden win. He put it right 1 year later. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix to Sergio Perez as they continue this extraordinary tussle. They might not be exactly together on track, but they are pushing each other to the brink.
That's a viewing point, wasn't it?
It really was.
Spill that champers and there's going to be a slippery surface flag down into the castle section, right overlooking the action.
That's a luxury problem to have with a Grand Prix in the balance. And one of the reasons that I think we see so many moments on the edge here is that normally at a street circuit, you'd roll up, you put all the downforce you could do. Like Monaco, you built the largest wing possible to the car. Here, though, you've got the massive straight that takes you down, so you compromise your setup. Now, is there a moment for Norris?
Hamilton is so close behind Sainz. Norris is close behind Hulkenberg. We're watching that, but Hamilton is also just 6/10 back from Sainz now. So Sainz was given a bit of a hurry up, pushed to the end, managed to up his pace for one lap, but now he's bringing Lewis with him. And Hamilton with the draggier Mercedes still can't quite make it through. Norris with a similar problem here behind Hulkenberg. Cannot make any progress, but at least Norris knows that Hulkenberg will pit before the end, as will Ocon, which will just gift him 9th place, which is the best he can get at the moment without further drama ahead. Hamilton's going to have to do it on track if he wants to pass Sainz. We want to see them in a minute. Here they come, Sainz and then Hamilton past the champagne.
They are going to have a sip of it themselves later on, unless something very dramatic happens out in front. But every point vital for the Constructors' Championship, and Sainz will just want to hold off Hamilton. Race is coming back to Hamilton. Looked problematic for him earlier on when he was on the medium tyres. Heavy graining there. The Mercedes has really suited the hard tyre a lot better. Sainz is responding. Can Hamilton stay within the DRS range?
He's driven really well today as Hamilton. Did a good job in qualifying, and then had a more underwhelming day yesterday. It was Russell that was the standout Mercedes driver. Now we jump on board with Hamilton, who has just been driving really nicely, clinically when he had to. Got a bit unlucky with the strategy as well, but has made up for it. And now he is staring at the back of the Ferrari. Here we go with DRS, getting closer and closer towards the braking zone, but he's nowhere near enough for a lunge. The Mercedes is not very raceable for them. That's why Russell has still not been able to pass Stroll either.
And it went from 60 metres to 40 metres and stopped. And that illustrates perfectly, in comparison to, say, what we've seen with the Red Bulls, the pace, the straight line speed that the Mercedes are looking for. Can't even shape for even a half look down to turn 3.
He's going to have to lunge it if he wants to at some point. Magnussen is very close to the Williams as well, further back. If Hamilton wants to try and make it through past Sainz, I just don't see he's going to have the speed to blast by in the Red Bull fashion. He's going to have to do it deep on the brakes, and Sainz will know that. Can't afford to make a mistake.
Joe, we have 2 boxes lap. We have an issue. Box this lap. Box.
So Joe Granu looks like he's going to become the 2nd retirement of the Grand Prix so far. And he's wheeled in for Alfa Romeo. Not the easiest season for the team so far. Last season, they had a lightweight car in comparison to the rest of the field. They scored their points early. This year, everyone appears to have caught up. And you've got one Alfa Romeo out, the other Alfa Romeo in 18th.
Yeah, they're really going through a tough patch at the moment. The team that eventually will become Audi in a few years' time. They've got a lot of work to do to be fighting with the big boys when they turn up. Here we go again, Hamilton behind Sainz. No, not closer this time than he was the last time though. He'll get DRS, but I think he's still too far away. Just the pressure that Sainz will be feeling though, is going to be pretty immense right now, having Lewis Hamilton behind him. You know that any mistake and you're going to be very vulnerable to an attack. Here comes Hamilton towards the braking zone. Too far back, couple of car lengths.
Hamilton, the winner of this Grand Prix back in 2018, trying to take a place in the top 5 once more, something he's been used to this year. He's finished in the top 5 of every race this season. He needs a move on the Ferrari to maintain that run of form. We go back to the never-ending story of those drivers yet to pit, keeping those drivers who have made their stop and are just out of the points at bay.
This could define DRS train, I think, this one. Hulkenberg now back almost within a second of Ocon, and then everyone behind just towing along with the DRS, but no one is close enough to look at a move. We saw a half attempt from Hulkenberg down at this corner about 20 laps ago, but it came to nothing. He's getting ready for some tyres. Surely that'll be for Russell.
It'll have to be.
As a curveball, he's got nothing to lose. I mean, at the moment, if he pits, he'll come out behind Ocon, but the way that they're going, it won't be too long before Russell gets a free pit stop to try something, but I don't know if he's got enough laps to then catch Stroll ahead. Hamilton surely can't pit, because they've got a slow puncture on one of their cars. They're both lapping quite well at the moment. Just a bit of bluff tactics, keep everyone else on their toes.
The kidology going on down in the pit lane. Everyone's taking a seat once again to watch the Grand Prix with the rest of us. Never really want to go beyond one stop in Baku if you can avoid it.
Yeah, you've got to be ready for a safety car at any moment here as well. I can't tell you how impressive the driving standards have been so far. Generally this weekend around a track that's so difficult, but today, for everyone, this has been a relentless push. There have been elements of tyre saving, but the Red Bulls have barely shown any of it, just been pushing each other lap after lap. Perez is now 3.5 seconds clear of Verstappen. Had that tiny brush of the wall into 15 that would have got his heart racing, and apart from that, it's hard. You know, when you're driving, you are really sweating it out. This is why the drivers do the training on a circuit that's not as physical as some, but the attention, the focus that you need the whole way through an hour-and-a-half Grand Prix with the walls so close and so many chances to hit them with the big braking zones, the crests, everything that goes on. Just immense training, focus, everything that goes into it has just been such a high caliber today.
We're continuing to run on board with Pierre Gasly, who last year at this circuit had his best result of the entire season for AlphaTauri with a 5th place. He was running for a long time in the Australian Grand Prix in 5th place before the drama of that late race restart, and the points slipped away. So it's still just a 9th place finish. His best with his new team. Scored that result in the first 2 Grand Prix of the year. And Sargent, after getting into Q2 for the first time in his Formula 1 career, then hitting the wall and not being able to take part in the sprint, logging laps here as he prepares to go to his home race. And what a home race! The man from Florida, from Fort Lauderdale, a couple of miles up the road from where we will be racing at the Miami Grand Prix.
Gasly behind him for now. Gasly was pretty close on the last lap, quite close enough for a move. Surely not going to be getting any points today, these two, with 11 to go. But you never know around this circuit.
Well, we thought that last time out at Albert Park, and then things went differently. Different lines that they're taking there. Sargent and Gasly before they converge on the apex and then the exit of the corner. It's now 3.4 seconds between first and second, between Perez and Verstappen. Perez on for one of his best ever days in Red Bull colours. Perez has never won the same Grand Prix twice in his Formula 1 career.
Yeah, but now he's racking up street circuits in a Red Bull. They're going to come up plenty, I think. I mean, his record, Perez is obviously a top driver, and his record is good across the board, but street circuits, he is just a man, isn't he?
Comes alive for them. 4 of his 5 wins at street circuits. If he wins today, he goes beyond Charles Leclerc. With all of those pole positions for Charles, he would pass Charles Leclerc's career win total.
Yeah, in general, I wouldn't put Checo in the bracket of your Hamiltons, your Alonsos, your Verstappens. They are, you know, multiple champions, and Perez has got to achieve a bit more to get there. But when you put him on a street circuit, he can match anyone. And again, he's gone toe-to-toe with Max so far today. We've got 10 laps to run, but for 41 of them, he has been the slightly stronger Red Bull. It was behind earlier on, pressurised Verstappen into needing a pit stop before the safety car. That gave him the lead in the end, that decision by Red Bull to pit Max, but maybe he would have had it without and would have taken it on track. It's been masterful thus far, but it's not over. 3.2 seconds. It's a mistake away from Verstappen coming back.
And they are not backing off. They are not easing off in the first part of the lap. And as soon as you finish that sentence, Jodie, Perez posted a first sector half a second slower than the driver directly behind him.
It's on. It's still on. But so far, it has been brilliant. Here comes Hamilton. Better run. Sainz goes defensive.
He's going to run out of room at 3. Good momentum there, making the use of the second DRS zone. But that's it. That's your lot now until you go back to the main straight.
Much quicker, though, is Hamilton and Sainz. It's just the straight line speed of the Mercedes. It's painful to watch for those in the garage, I think. He's been stuck in behind the Ferrari for so long. Needs some level of lunge, but will he risk it? We're talking 6th v 5th for Hamilton. That doth butter no parsnips for a 7-time world champion. He's if it was for a podium, you'd think maybe the risk is a little bit more. Spray some champers and get a pot for the lock. I don't know if Hamilton keeps his 3rd place trophies. I don't imagine he does.
He's got a fair few of them. He's got 192 trophies from Formula 1 podiums.
Well, his 3rds and 2nds are more rare than his wins, aren't they?
That's definitely true. Hamilton going statistically through a very unusual period in Formula One. He has not won in the championship since Jeddah in 2021. Determined. It feels like the fire has been reignited in recent races. Prepared to say the concept needed to change, and that technical director change. James Allison returning to that role for Mercedes, and Mike Elliott going to a different role at the team. Hamilton close now. It's the next DRS zone where he looks the most likely to make the move.
The closer he gets, at least he can start to be a menace in the mirrors for Sainz and open up opportunities in niche places like Fernando Alonso, who passed Carlos at turn 4. I think he's closer this time than he has been on the as he picks up the DRS down to turn 3. Is Sainz checking the mirrors? Yes, he is to the right-hand side. Hamilton feints to the left, but he's just too far back still. He needs to be right tucked under the diffuser of the Ferrari, I think, to pick up a slipstream in that Mercedes. Just not enough at the moment.
So Hamilton frustrated, still looking at the rear wing of the Ferrari. We join Pierre Gasly looking at the rear wing ahead of the Williams, still holding station ahead, but update on the race lead. Last time around in the first sector, Verstappen 2/10 faster than Perez. This one isn't done yet out front.
And you know, it's going to cool off the battle for third. Leclerc had eked out that gap to over 4 seconds to Fernando Alonso and is looking good. Here's Max. Oh, he doesn't brush it this time, but he's still pushing on, improving his pace, cutting down the gap slightly, and again to the concrete barrier there. Oh, it's relentless. This is lap after lap. We get some slow-mo replays, but you cut to them at any moment and they're right up to the barriers. Here we go with Max coming into to turn 2, right up against the barriers. Bottas has been lapped by Perez. That's one that he's not lost any time doing, with the help of DRS as well. So that's something that you don't want to see when you're leading a race with 8 to go, is a back marker ahead, but Bottas has been quite obliging to get out of the way for the race leader. Now Verstappen is going to catch him in a marginally worse place here. It could be very much a worse place if Bottas doesn't jump out the way before they get to turn 7.
You don't want to be moving too far away from the racing line in that middle part of the circuit as well. Earlier on, Esteban Ocon reporting debris between 2 and 3 on the racetrack.
Well, Prix, the driver that's desperate for a safety car, starts seeing debris that I don't think we've seen from anyone else yet. But a safety car would bring Ocon and Hulkenberg back into play for points, but now with every lap that passes, they know their pit stop is just going to wipe them down the order. So we'll start to hear more and more calls probably for some level of intervention from Ocon.
Ocon trying his luck on the radio. We haven't been able to pick it up on camera, so it can't be that big, but worth any attempt. You're looking at the old city walls, the Maiden Tower, and the distinctive middle part of the circuit at the top of your picture, the run to the line at the bottom of your picture, next to the Caspian Sea. Alonso's done the fastest first sector of anyone so far, giving the hurry up to Leclerc, who's responding in the middle part of the lap, and it is a static gap for the moment. Back on board with Hulkenberg, gets a stop.
Into turn 15, he's definitely had a tap of the wall with the right rear there. You can see the correction on the steering, got it slightly deep. There's the nudge. Verstappen already had pushed that back by a little bit. Hulkenberg knocks it back slightly more. And here's a move for Gasly. Is he finally going to get round Sargent, around the outside? Nice one from Pierre there for his 16th position.
Another move for Pierre Gasly, makes his way through. Fastest lap by Charles Leclerc last time around. And that has come out of nowhere. Push lap there to move on, get the bonus point for fastest lap. As it stands, Verstappen 3 seconds away.
Got any more power to give me at some stage?
Okay, we'll have a look.
So maybe looking deployment-wise about what Hamilton can have. You've got to keep it in the same engine mode. For a long time, that's been the rule. You've got to set the engine mode throughout the weekend. It's tight, though. Once again, this is the part of the racetrack where he gets closest, but he just doesn't have the momentum that maybe Lando Norris has into turn number 1.
Still just in behind Hulkenberg. Norris knows that Hulkenberg will pit, but now you're just thinking, what on earth? He's just going to go to the end, and they're going to hope for remember, a red flag is going to mean they get a free tyre stop. There's no reason for Hulkenberg or Ocon to actually make a pit stop. Great advert for the hard tyre of Pirelli. I mean, they've just not gone away at all with these guys at the wheel. They're going to do the whole race on one set of tyres at this rate. like Albon from Melbourne last year, and then hope that a safety car or certainly a red flag is what's going to be crucial for Ocon and Hulkenberg to have a free pit stop. They've still got this train of Norris and Tsunoda behind. Yes, it's just drifted a little bit further away, so it looks like the points will go to Norris and Tsunoda when Hulkenberg and Ocon pit. I think Alonso was I mean, the way that Alonso and Leclerc have been driving is that they've been so reserved on a tyre that actually hasn't degraded very much. When they've needed to, they can smash in really fast laps and push each other. They're no longer any slower than the Red Bulls out front. But they just were driving so far within some comfort zone for quite a few laps, just scared of the degradation later on. Now they can unleash some pace, and they've actually got quite a lot in the tank. Both have done a quicker lap than Perez and Verstappen out front.
Everyone who needs to push, setting personal bests out there. Alonso, middle part of the circuit, is a personal best. Sainz, first 2 sectors, personal best. Hamilton trying to go with him with the benefit of DRS. Norris is stuck in that DRS as well. Hamilton just trying to force the mistake in the battle for 5th position, and Norris will just be absolutely sick at the sight of this Haas rear wing. Tsunoda watching on behind as well for any lock-up, any hint of a mistake that might give him a chance to upgrade later on what will be 9th place. This is what they're battling over at the moment. When the 2 in front eventually come in to make their mandatory stop, that's why we are giving you, it's not a mandatory stop, but you've got to run 2 compounds of tyres, so they do have to come in. You can do that under a red flag, as Jolien mentioned, but for the moment, Norris stuck in the wheel tracks.
And the tough thing for Norris, he could be a little bit more relaxed about Hulkenberg ahead, doesn't need to risk anything, but he has got Tsunoda right behind him. If Yuki wasn't there, then I think Norris can be just a little bit more relaxed, but any mistake or a clumsy move from Lando will cost him a position at the end of the race as well, and that is the crucial fight for Norris at the moment, is the cars behind, because Ocon and Hulkenberg will
he's got him. He's got him. Lando Norris finally fights away by, and that must have been a move in the second DRS zone or a mistake from Hulkenberg, because it is Norris now up to 10th position.
One of Hulkenberg's nudged the wall. That is, I've not seen many moves position at turn 7 there. Very, very odd place to be making a move. Did Lando manage to get him offline into turn 5 and 6, or has Hulkenberg made a mistake, or has he just not got any acceleration coming out of the corner?
Was he deep into the chicane?
Yeah.
5 and 6? Let's have a look.
Let me go on board then. He's not having to defend. He's made a mistake on the braking here. There's a bit of a lock-up. Now he's wide, and yeah, he's just tightened the second part of it. You're absolutely right, and then can't get out the corner, and the man in the McLaren comes straight through on the inside. So place gained for Norris, and now Tsunoda fancies a bit of it as well.
So Tsunoda knows he's got to make the pass quickly if he's going to go and race Norris for the rest of the Grand Prix, and he doesn't have the room to do so. That should give Norris breathing room, and Hulkenberg keeping the AlphaTauri at bay.
Okay, well, next thing for Tsunoda is he's got Piastri behind, and a point for AlphaTauri would be quite a lot after the start of the season that they've had. Yuki picked up a point in Melbourne, but if he can get another one, that would double the tally and really cement what's been a good weekend for him. Hulkenberg's not a threat right now because he has to pit. Ocon has to pit. Ocon hoping for rain or something else now on the radio. A red flag for the darkness.
Appealing to the umpire. It's out, it's out, it's looking dark. There was rain forecast initially at the start of the day, which I can't remember at this venue before. It's had everything else apart from rain in this part of the world.
It often hasn't needed the rain to spice up the action, has it, around Baku? The action has never quite materialised between Perez and Verstappen. They have been toe-to-toe for the whole way, and the laps keep ticking down, and Perez keeps doing a good job. Both the Red Bulls did personal bests on the last lap. Neither of them were any quicker than Leclerc's done, so Leclerc still has fastest lap of the race, and now with 3.7 seconds between the two, 3.5 seconds between the two, that's what they'll be looking at.
On that point, both drivers have been asking whether they have permission to push on for fastest lap. So every point being vital at the moment, going towards the 3rd place finisher. Perez was asking Hugh Bird, can I go for fastest lap? The answer was yes. Tsunoda's got an amazing run this time, and we're going to see it at full speed.
I think we need to pit the tires are dead.
Just hang in there, just try to stay out. The only chance is if we get some kind of safety car or red.
So that's the conversation between Hulkenberg and his engineer Gary Cannon, but ahead goes Yuki Tsunoda to take his place in 11th at the moment. Ocon still to pit ahead, so Yuki Tsunoda on for back-to-back point scores. Challenged by outgoing team principal Franz Tost to step up. Tsunoda put it in the top 10 in Grand Prix qualifying on Friday. Looks set for back-to-back points finishes. He's the team leader right now at AlphaTauri.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Tsunoda. The AlphaTauri team has been struggling so far this season, but in Yuki, at least they've got a driver that can get them to the points right now. De Vries struggling a lot more than I think anyone expected coming into Formula One, but Tsunoda's been showing in the way and adding the pressure to a man that crashed out of this one. The only driver to crash out, with Joe retiring with a reliability problem at Alfa Romeo. And now Yuki is heading towards a point once Esteban Ocon pits, but Ocon's tyres aren't gone. They've done 48 laps. Didn't look too dark out there, did it?
We were having a look at the clouds beyond the flame towers of the Azerbaijani capital, and it does appear to be rain in the distance, but it looks a very long way in the distance, and not the intervention that Ocon would have been dreaming of.
They need something, and that's why Hulkenberg is still out there. Now he's being reeled in by Piastri, and this is a horrible feeling for a driver. Your tyres are really shot, you're sliding around, you know you've got to make a pit stop, and your engine is just saying, stay out there. Well, it's just slithering into every corner on a street circuit that is so punishing. And Hulkenberg has been in the dirty air of Ocon all Grand Prix, and now he's paying the price with Piastri, the next man to make a move.
So further back, Hulkenberg, his tyres pleading first, then the driver pleading. We've got to get rid of these hards, and it's a simple pass for Oscar Piastri as those tyres plead for mercy, and none is offered by the Haas team, who know that their tactic was always stay out, so they're doing it right till the very end.
Yeah, now they might as well pit him. He's already down to 13th. It's about to get 14th or 15th. By pitting Hulkenberg, you bring up Magnussen as well. So playtime's over for Nico. I think he's desperate for a bit of a new tyre action before the end. He set one banzai fast lap. Maybe take the fastest lap of the race by the time Hulkenberg puts on some softs.
Talking of the fastest lap, Max Verstappen asked for permission, delivered it. And he's 3 seconds away from his teammate on track, but he's got the bonus point to minimise the point swing in the Drivers' World Championship. At least he did have. It's now in the possession of Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, the actual outright pace of the Aston Martin and the Ferrari is a match for the Red Bulls right now. And Alonso's within 3 seconds of Leclerc. Surely it's going to be too little too late, but he has been able to pump in some lap times when required. Half a second quicker than Leclerc on the last lap. Leclerc's improving. All of the top four are actually really evenly matched on their best lap. Just the Red Bulls were able to do it lap after lap after lap for the first 40, and that is why they are marching away to a 1-2.
Momentary yellow flag in Sector 1. Leaning forward to see whether anyone had gone deep. Not the fastest laps being chased at the moment. And we're focusing, though, on Hulkenberg. Car number 27 coming under pressure from Alex Albon. It's pressure that will tell right about now. And then it's Hulkenberg's teammate. No tyres left, no contest between the two of them. And through they cycle. That is a late lunge, no defence needed. And through goes Magnussen to be the lead Haas in the order.
Yeah, Hulkenberg knowing the team game there, and Magnussen coming through. Different strategy, gambling strategy for Hulkenberg, and it's not worked out for him. Ocon still has a chance if there's a red flag right at the end.
That's why we had the yellow. Deep moment for George Russell into turn one, gathered it all together, and that's the end of any hope of getting past Lance Stroll for the British driver.
Don't know if that definitely necessitated a yellow flag, but
I think it's an instant trigger on the system if anyone goes all four wheels over the white line there.
I mean, it cost him about half a second. Russell pushing on, still stuck behind Stroll, and a little mistake there for George.
So fastest lap for Verstappen, once again fastest lap for Alonso. So they're having their own private battle on different parts of the circuit. I can tell you also, Leclerc has decided to wave off his battle for fastest lap. He clipped the wall out there, we're hearing. That's the word from those with eyes in the gallery.
Well, he's still pushing because he's just done his personal best, but he's 3/10 away from Alonso and splitting the Red Bulls on pace. Here comes Russell to the pits then. He has enough of a gap to pit, take a free pit stop and go for his own fastest lap attempt. And he should come out ahead of Ocon still. Remember, Ocon will have to pit as well. A little bit of a slow stop though. Bit of a slow stop then for the Mercedes.
think he'll just have the margin that he needs as he rejoins penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. A Grand Prix that looks like the first part of it was settled by the timing of the safety car, and then an extraordinary run of about 15 laps where Perez and Verstappen dared each other to the edge, to the brink, and the Mexican driver checking his mirrors left and right as he is about to go on the 51st and last tour of the circuit.
And Winnie is getting gastier.
So that's the message to Charles Leclerc. Just be careful. The crosswinds can really affect you at 5 and 6. There's a corridor from the way that the apartment blocks are built there. We've seen that affect drivers. Hulkenberg in the past was one of them affected by those crosswinds when he was in contention for a podium back in 2017. He's made his stop. He's got the soft tyres on the car, but this will be pure racing satisfaction for Sergio Perez, who is going to beat his teammate in a straight fight. He got track position, but he weathered the pressure, the unrelenting pressure of a two-time world champion, applying all the time the sectors, the fastest, the personal best. Perez has found an answer to it.
It's been brilliant from Perez. Sprint winner yesterday, Grand Prix winner if he can navigate the next 5 corners around this circuit. The way that everyone's been driving, brushing the walls, you never take anything for granted, but he's been superb this weekend. And is it really establishing championship credentials right now? Maybe he can take the fight to Verstappen this season. Did well in Jeddah, but started a long way ahead of Max. This time he's done well. He's beaten Verstappen in pretty much an even fight.
Ocon pits, and there's loads of photographers ready to receive the man that's just a few meters away. One of Sergio Perez's greatest ever days. Ocon completes his stop, but this is a straight fight that's been won by the Mexican driver. It has been a phenomenal performance from Sergio Perez. The street fighter's done it again. Sergio Perez wins in Azerbaijan to take his 6th career victory, to beat his teammate. Max Verstappen takes the fastest lap on the last tour, but it's Perez's day in Baku. He's the first repeat winner at this venue, and despite all of Fernando Alonso's efforts, it's Charles Leclerc who's going to beat him to the rostrum. For the first time this season, Ferrari on the podium with Charles Leclerc, and it's a 25th 1-2 all-time for Red Bull as we finish the points with Max Verstappen in 2nd, Leclerc in 3rd, Alonso chasing him home in 4th, and then this is Sainz and Hamilton, Stroll, and then we'll watch out to see what Russell can do. Across the line we go with Sainz, who did well to hold off Hamilton, who was clearly quicker but didn't have the straight line speed. Stroll is 7th, and George Russell has set 2 purple sectors. He's going to take that bonus point away, which means it's a 7-point swing for Sergio Perez in the World Championship. A performance to say, game on in the fight for the world title. George Russell put the soft tyres on, completes all 3 sectors at the end, takes the checkered flag and looks for the fastest lap. And he comes across the line and he's got it. So there you go. You don't get the graphic because he's taken the checkered flag, but that is the fastest lap for George Russell. And mission complete. What a day for Checo.
King of the streets.
Well done, guys. We dominated this weekend. Well done, guys. Well done. We just have to sort out the issues. We cannot have the issues like Melbourne. And we are in the fight, guys. Well done. What a job. And this one goes to Thibaut and his wife. He's still a big part of our team. Yes, guys. Well done. Vamos!
Awesome stuff.
Well, ticking through previous Sergio Perez wins. One in Baku in 2021 because of a puncher to his teammate. Monaco because of a Ferrari strategy error. Not taking anything away from him, he still did the job. It was a brilliant performance in Marina Bay to hold off Charles Leclerc. Straight fight for the win there. Jeddah, problem for his teammate. This is surely his greatest victory in Formula One.
We're saying that every time Perez takes a win, though. They just get better and better, the Checo wins.
The straight fight element between his teammate.
Yeah, that's what's so good is, look, people will say that the pit stop for Verstappen cost him.
Nice shot, Max.
Yeah, not bad. Good result, that.
Yeah, well done, Max. Checo got a little lucky with the safety car there, but it's a long season and very, very good points today. So great team result. Well done.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, we wouldn't know the safety car could come out there. A bit unlucky, but good team result. And I think we learned a lot again.
I think it was a poor read from Red Bull. They don't make a lot of poor strategies, but that one, pitting Max, definitely cost him a little bit. But I think Checo was going to make the move anyway if he stayed out. He was better in the first stint, he was better in the second stint, and he takes the win. It's fully deserved.
He parks up in P1, and I go back, I want to underline this. There was a point where Sergio Perez was potentially heading out of Formula One. It was head to Red Bull or head out of the sport, and you can see what it means to him. He got his Red Bull chance, and he is driving at the highest level of a long career that began in 2011 on the car, our first ever Azerbaijan Grand Prix repeat winner. And it's at a street circuit once again. 5 of his 6 career wins coming when the walls are tight and close.
2 wins this year for Verstappen, now it's 2 for Perez. Red Bull still ahead of the game, but everyone is closing up. Leclerc was the fastest man on 1 lap. He wasn't a mile away in race pace. The Red Bulls didn't have a free pit stop at the end at least. And when they were in the fastest lap shootouts, Verstappen was only 8,000 quicker than Alonso's time. So the pace is closing up to Red Bull with upgrades. But still, it's these 2 out front that are the team to beat. And it's just 6 points. Russell did Perez a little favour there by taking the fastest lap run. It's 6 points will separate these 2 in the championship. Still advantage Verstappen before next week.
Helmut Marko's 80th birthday this weekend. Fine way to celebrate when the team that he has been advising all the way through since their first race in 2005 take their 25th 1-2 in Formula One. Charles Leclerc on the podium for the first time this season. That'll be a relief. It's been a recovery weekend for his championship after the disappointment of the retirement in Bahrain. No pace at all when it came to Jeddah, and then the DNF in Australia. He's on the board in impressive fashion. So we saw Ocon in the pits, Norris was 9th, Tsunoda was in 10th place.
And Leclerc deserves a podium for the weekend that he's had. He's been so strong. I mean, maybe driver of the weekend. The performance that he's had in that Ferrari, certainly over 1 lap, was outstanding. Perez, of course, for Red Bull, winning the Grand Prix, winning the sprint. Leclerc has dragged that Ferrari. He's finished 24 seconds ahead of his teammate today. And Carlos Sainz is no slouch, but Leclerc has been head and shoulders above. And he's beaten Fernando Alonso. First time Alonso's off the podium this season.
Just listening.
The last 10 laps I could yes. It's very nice.
Talking about the last lap, sneaking out the tyres to the end. Is it an inter-team battle? He knew he needed to take that victory today. If he is going to beat Max Verstappen, he's going to have to beat him on all of his favourite circuits. The 1996 world champion Damon Hill is speaking to our top 3.
Charles, long, hard race. You got pole position, brilliant pole position, but you knew you couldn't keep with pace of the Red Bulls, but a valiant effort. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, again, I mean, they are in another league once it comes to race, so the really good lap managed to put us in front, but then over 51 laps it was just not possible. They have so much more pace than we do in race pace. So yeah, as I said yesterday, I think they found something that we didn't yet, and that's where our focus is at the moment. Everybody's working flat out to try and understand what we can do in the races, especially to just get more performance.
Do you feel like you've closed the gap? Ferrari are getting at least a little closer to the Red Bulls?
Honestly, the feeling is a little bit better. But when I see the gap, and I'm pretty sure that when you have this type of gap, you are probably not pushing 100%. So yeah, we don't really know how much we have closed the gap. The feeling is a little bit better, but again, also the Aston Martin was really quick today. So yeah, we still have a lot of work.
Otherwise a lonely race, but you got a little bit of pressure there from Fernando at the end. The old fox, he doesn't leave you alone, does he?
Yeah, no, he was pushing. I mean, I knew what his intentions were at the beginning, because he always does that, trying to keep the tires at the beginning of the stint and push at the end. So I tried to do the same, and at the end it was close, but not enough for Fernando today.
Well, congratulations anyway, and
thank you.
Good luck for the next one. And Max, well, you got the long race you wanted, but perhaps not the result that you wanted. You got very unlucky, I think, with the safety car. But other than that, the pace of Sergio, were you not able to catch him? How did it go?
Yeah, I think, of course, the safety car was a bit unlucky. Then I had to push again. I tried to stay very close to try and get into the DRS, but I think the tires were overheating a bit because of that, of course, trying to follow. But also the balance, I was struggling to be really consistent. So I was playing around with the tools a little bit. And I think once I got that sorted, I would say the last 10 laps were actually quite good again. But just a little bit too late. But I think a lot of things learned again throughout the race. And of course, at the end of the day, a good team result.
And it's also good for the championship, isn't it? I mean, it's not, you know, the gap has closed a little bit between you and Sergio, so it's going to be tense for the rest of the season.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we know it's a very long season, and like I said, a lot of things are learned again. I mean, Baku is again quite different to Miami, and Miami is going to be again very different to the other tracks we go to. But yeah, you keep learning. You know, it can never be perfect all the time. I think there are always days that you can learn.
Tiring race, we saw you actually touch the tyres a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, a few times we hit the wall around the lap. So we were, of course, pushing, but that's also part of a street circuit.
Well done anyway, and good luck for the next one. Sergio, now, I think you are now officially the only person to won 2 Baku Grand Prix. You've won a
2.5.
2.5. Congratulations, what a fantastic drive. We just mentioned to Max that you got a little bit of a break there with the safety car. You stayed out and Max was just coming in at the wrong time.
Yeah, it really worked out today for us. We managed to stay in the DRS train, and we managed to keep the pressure on Max, which, yeah, I think we had a better deck on that first stint. I think it was looking good. It was looking good already from that side. Then the safety car came and bunched everyone up, so it was, again, another race on the hard tires.
There's clearly not much between you, the pace between you and Max on this circuit. I mean, it could have been different if you'd come out behind. Do you think if you'd come out from behind Max, you could have raced him to the end, or was it always going to be a stalemate?
I think it was very close between us. I mean, we pushed to the maximum today. I mean, we both clipped the wall a few times. So we were pushing out there. The way Max pushed me throughout the race was really hard, but we managed to keep him under control.
Yeah, it was great because your team came on to you and said, what was going on at turn 15? And you were keeping it quiet, but you hit the wall on the right.
Really hard. I had a little bit of luck, especially with that front right, that it didn't blow up.
Well, it survived, and congratulations. What a great drive, and many, many congratulations.
Thank
Good
you.
luck for the rest of the season.
The top 3, speaking to Damon Hill. Knows a thing or two about winning Formula One Grand Prix. I love the answer from Checo. 2.5 times a winner, counting that sprint victory from yesterday as well. And now more career wins than Charles Leclerc. This is the moment he confirmed it. He was told, interesting psychology on that slowdown lap in Melbourne from Hugh Bird. He immediately said to his driver, King of Baku, immediately put the next race in his driver's mind rather than the recovery from the back from 20th to 5th. And what do you know? All these weeks later, round 4 belongs to this man.
He just seems rejuvenated this year as well. The way that Max was obviously the runaway champion last season, winning all of those Grand Prix, a little bit of pressure on Checo's shoulders, and then he managed to win in Singapore, which did wonders for him. But you know, it wasn't easy for him at times last year, and he's turned up this season, and it reminds me very much of Valtteri Bottas 2.0.
The challenge then becomes maintaining that battle all the way through. Let's listen into the cool down.
It's the beginning.
So much with our car. You were pushing flat out all the way.
Yeah, because we were quite close. But yeah, when you're following all the time, within like 1.5 seconds is really tough. So then At one point it opened up a bit, then the last 5 to 10 laps was
Yeah. What lap times were you doing at the end?
we did a 44, but you were quite quick at the end.
Yeah. Do you want your seat?
No, no, it's
Let me have it.
Yes.
Here's the seat.
There was not much action out there in terms of safety
for me, it
cars
was the
and-
loneliest race ever.
How far ahead you finished from the people behind?
Oh, Fernando was coming back at the end. I think he finished 6 tenths behind me.
Oh, he finished fourth?
Yeah, he finished fourth. He was quick. He was doing 43 fourths or 44 fourths.
Yeah, you were unlucky there with this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit painful. That happens, you know. Sometimes. I mean, you had it last year in Jeddah. Like fourth gear.
Yeah, I was trying to come at the time, but then it was just too late.
Well, it appears we can't broadcast you all of the debrief from the top three. Whatever Checo said, Max laughed at, so we couldn't send it to you though. There's Fred Vasseur in conversation. Always in good form. They're a lot happier down there at Ferrari than they have been in recent weeks. It is time for the fourth podium of the season and a first podium of the campaign for Charles Leclerc. 4 starts from the front of the field here, but still no victory for the Ferrari driver. He'll have his day here, I am sure, in the future. Max Verstappen on the podium once more, but it's a second win of the season and a 6th career win for Sergio Perez, who will hear his national anthem.
National anthem.
the Mexican and Austrian national anthems for Sergio Perez and Red Bull. That was a fantastic shot down in Parc Fermé of Max Verstappen's car and the marks on the Pirelli tyres. They pushed all the way through, and the timing of the safety car proving crucial. But that's a fine way to become a double winner in Baku, and not only a trophy but a gold medal to go with it as well for Perez, who stakes his claim to be a championship contender, just 6 points behind his teammate now, and a 25th all-time 1-2 for Red Bull. They've done it in back-to-back years as well here in Azerbaijan. And for Max Verstappen, an acknowledgement for his team and all the hard work. What a car they have this season, but what a performance, certainly in the middle part of the race. That was amazing stuff from Perez and Verstappen. Charles Leclerc, younger brother Arthur, who was competing in Formula 2 this weekend, applauding his brother on the rostrum. Well, we expected it to be these three. We had a masterclass at the front of the field from Perez and Verstappen, pushing each other all the way. Leclerc doing well to hold off Alonso, who is demoted from the podium for the first time this season, thanks to the efforts of our pole sitter. But it's another glorious day in the motor racing history of Red Bull. They are sweeping the races. 2 wins so far for Verstappen, 2 wins now for Perez, and just 6 points in the World Championship battle.